Hello. Welcome along to episode 167 of Adventures in Pop. We are going to talk about a couple of things in this episode that are mostly about having a little look kind of behind the scenes at some of the ways that I am promoting the new album, Strange Alien. So, little recap on the story so far. I have released my sixth album, Strange Alien. It came out last Friday on the 31st of May. Oh, and the week before that, I released Face the Music, and that's also kind of relevant in the story, which was one of the tracks. It was the 11th actual release from this album, and then I released the album, and it had an extra track, Hay Fever, which I have now shared with you, so you've got the whole thing. And you can access it on YouTube or Spotify and any streaming platform, and I suggest you do, because, well, I might come round your house and check that you know all the songs by heart, and it'd be embarrassing if you don't. So, in this episode, I want to look at, as I say, some of the ways that this album is being promoted, because we've talked a little bit about Liberty PR, an actual real PR company based in Brighton, who are providing quite a lot of the heavy lifting, the assistance in getting some action going on this album. And I would say quite a lot of what that is about is is awareness raising, and it's a bit of a slow burn, and it doesn't necessarily just translate absolutely into immediate Spotify streams, for example. So the last time I spoke to this guy Dan, I was asking him a little bit about how do you measure success? How do you know what do you quantify to be able to say this promotion overall has been successful? And we'll come on to that second. First of all, I want to talk about Spotify's own promotion service, one of several actually that they now run, called Marquee. Now, look, sometime back, I used their promotion tool called Discovery Mode, and that is a way of putting some tracks sort of in front of people, getting them to hear mostly your newish material. You have to be eligible to take part in Discovery Mode. One of the downsides of Discovery Mode is that although it's free to use, Spotify take a chunk, I think a third of your sort of streaming income, leaving you with less. And when you're starting out with basically pennies, getting less, well, I suppose in a way it just doesn't really make much difference, because what are you losing? Fractions of pennies. But I want to focus this time on Marquee. So this is kind of like the second of the Spotify tools that you are able to use in order to promote your own material on Spotify. And actually, I will just very quickly say they've come up with a third one of these called Showcase. They've told me all about Showcase and said, here's, get started on Showcase. I was quite excited. I thought, oh, here's another new way of promoting stuff, entirely appropriately on Spotify. And then find, of course, that I'm not eligible, because you are only eligible for Showcase if you live in America. And I do resent that a little bit. I do think that's a bit unfair, that basically people in the United States have an advantage in showcasing their own music. Even Marquee, people in certain territories are advantaged, and actually it took a little while, but then United Kingdom was added to the list. But it's not all countries, so I'm a little bit advantaged by being able to operate with Marquee. And Marquee also you also have to jump through some hoops before you're really eligible. So you have to have a certain number of monthly listeners, a certain number of streams, and you've got to operate with Marquee within a certain number of days of the release of that track. So again, it's really about focusing on your newest releases. But here's the thing. I've used Marquee now, and I've just got all the results kind of in front of me here. I won't go through the whole lot, because that would take us hours and you'll be asleep. But I've used it one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 times. 6 of those times have been about promoting an individual song. And then I was a bit surprised, but they gave me the opportunity to promote the whole album of Strange Alien. And that's really where I want to apply a bit of focus here. Because the thing that's interesting is the very first time I used it, it was for the track Fall in Love with Me, one of the tracks on Strange Alien. And I set up a budget of a maximum of £400. And over the period of this promotion, which happened, I can see the dates here, end of January, beginning of February, targeting an audience in the United States, they used only on my behalf £19 of that 400. And for that £19, I got 57 clicks. So they're the people who kind of didn't just see the campaign, but then clicked on the campaign to listen to some music. 57. But it was only £19. And I was thinking, why have they only used £19? What about the other 380 that was available there? Anyway, on we go. The next time it was for You Must Be Laughing. This was a campaign in the middle of February. I put in a budget of £350. And this time I was kind of thinking, well, it doesn't really matter what the budget is if they're only going to use 19. This time they only used £16 of that £350 budget. And I got 48 clicks for my £16. So you can see the kind of level is not going to be life-changing, is it? The third time I used it on You Must Be Laughing again. This time they took £18.50 roughly. I got 55 clicks. And then it started to just go up a little bit. So the next time it was with Lay Down My Life. We're now talking about the beginning of March. Again, targeting audiences in the United States. This time, from a budget of 400 and something pounds, they spent £31. I got 79 clicks. So it was like, ticking up a little bit, but still way off the full budget amount, as you can see. The next time it was with Spoil Your Vibe. By now we are coming into the beginning of April. This time they spent £35 and I had 88 clicks. Then it was for A Little Light. This now took us through towards the end of April. They spent £50 and I had 123 clicks. So it's gradually gone from 40, 50, 80, 100, 123 clicks. So, this was making a little bit of progress and a little bit more was being spent each time. And I was perfectly happy with that. Then the moment came when the album came out, and I went through the same process to get the whole album promoted. I put in a budget of £500. I targeted an audience in the United Kingdom for the first time. I don't know if that's relevant, so I'm just putting it out there. And I put in a budget of £500. This time, they spent the whole budget of £500. Now, I did say in an earlier recording that, kind of be a bit careful. They may spend a fraction of your budget, but obviously if you give them the full budget, they have every opportunity to spend your entire budget. And on the album, of course, that's promoting 12 tracks. They did. And for that, I got about 1,500 clicks. And that's not bad, I think. Again, not life-changing, but that 1,500 is sort of spread across all 12 tracks. And it's quite interesting because what I see when I look down the numbers is the tracks at the beginning of the album, so to speak, the ones near the top of the list got more plays than the ones in the bottom. So basically people started at the top. It's not surprising. They started, with the first track, Strange Alien, then on to Tongue Tied, on to I Breathe With You, etc. Some obviously didn't get to the end. That's perfectly understandable. I think that's quite normal. So there's a gradual drop-off as you go down the album. And that's fine. And I think, look, 1,495 clicks, that's quite nice. It has helped keep the album, ticking over as it's newly released. And it's good for all the tracks. And what I also noticed is quite a lot of people have evidently heard some of the album and then gone and played some other stuff in the back catalogue, so to speak. So that is also quite gratifying. And by the way, if you're one of those people who've newly checked out Strange Alien and then gone to listen to other stuff, you're very welcome. I hope you liked it. So that's all good. And okay, so it's cost me £500 on this, but I'm not putting albums out literally every day of the week. So here we are. I think it's worth it. I kind of think my attitude has always been, if the opportunity arises, take it if you can afford it. And if you can't afford it, take as much of it as you can afford. Simple. The whole album of Strange Alien has received 480,000 streams. So that's the 12 tracks all added up. So not to be sniffed at. Thank you very much indeed. I am grateful. I'm honoured. I think there's plenty more in it yet to go. So I'm sure it'll, carry on accumulating as we go along. Okay. So all of that is to do with me, focusing on Spotify and the different promotional services that they offer, and is nothing to do with Liberty PR based in Brighton. But however, I do want to bring to your attention that Liberty PR have now managed to get me 5 different pieces of print to promote this album, to promote both Face the Music, that all-important 11th track that came out the week earlier, and then the album. And as I said earlier, it's very hard to sort of see that there's been any direct sort of crossover from people reading a bit of print wherever they've read it, then going straight to the album and listening to the album. How would you know that? There's no way of tracking it across, really. But it's worth just bringing to your attention, I think, some of those bits of print, because they're quite fun. The first was a blogger called Sydney Castor. Second was Vents magazine. I'd never really heard of Vents magazine, but, great. Third one was Fame magazine. That was last week. The fourth one was Flex Music blog. And the fifth one, which I did have a bit of fun with, is called therealding.com. And what The Real Ding wanted, and I was kind of doing this yesterday, they wanted me to answer some questions so that it would sound like, we'd actually got together, they'd asked, we'd had an interview, they'd asked me some questions. So I thought it might be questions like, where do you buy your socks? The typical old smash hits thing just immediately goes through my head. What's your favourite colour? What's your best dish that you cook? That kind of, craziness, which is always kind of amusing because it's so amazingly irrelevant. What these guys wanted to know were things like, was I ever in a band? Who was the first artist or band that I really loved? Which song do I wish I'd written? Who would I love to collaborate with? It's those kinds of questions. And what I will do is put the link so you can read it yourself under this video and go and take a look. It is quite fun. It's quite amusing. I do confess to being in a terrible band many, many, many years ago and wishing that I was Bruce Springsteen at that time. It was early 80s, I know. I'm not. And so I've just been, as honest as I can be. It's always fun to be. I mean, actually, it's more fun to be honest than it is to be dishonest because, the truth is often funnier than fiction. So have a look at that. And as I say, it's interesting to see what this is going to add up to because I don't think this is finished yet. This is part of a 6-week campaign, and I suspect we are in week 3 of that 6 weeks. So there could be quite a bit more yet to come on this. And as I say, a slow burn. So look, I just wanted to get you up to date. I will be back very soon with some new music to play you and to let you know, again, maybe how this album is going. And if you haven't heard it yourself, bloomin', well, go and do that right now. Go and take a luxurious listen to the whole Strange Alien album. It'll take 40 minutes of your life, and boy, it's worth it. He says, hopefully. Have a fantastic week. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.